Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pricing College with your host, Aidan Campbell.
And Joanna Wells.
In today's episode, we are going to cover something that's very close to our heart. If you just listen to our podcasts, you may think we are just pricing gurus, but we are also incredibly ripped. And so we're going to cover gym memberships and gym pricing, a subject that I think a lot of people, both consumers and businesses, can learn from. So I think we'll let Joanna kick off.
Yeah, but firstly, starting with that, Aidan apparently goes to the gym 5 times a week. Not so sure. Maybe. Anyway, aside from that, gym pricing. Now, we wanted to speak about that. Yeah, look, we do go to the gym. But I've actually worked with like a couple of gym companies with pricing. But I don't really see improvement overall in the industry. Like, really, can anyone really think of a gym that has one clear price point for different plans? It seems as if, they've got millions of different price points. To me, it's pricing chaos and indicative of discretionary pricing, led predominantly by the franchisees, the owners, but more particularly by the individual sales people that are driving that sales. They're sort of dressed up as, personal trainers. They wear the shorts, but really they really go for the hard sell. And like, from my experience going to a gym and working for gyms for pricing, it seems like the maturity of pricing is still dominated by that person who wants a sale for their commission. There's very little price transparency. And to my thinking, like, is it fair? It's very promotional driven. It's always targeted on, time-based promotions, getting people in, driving traffic to meet a sales quota. I'm thinking very much it's very similar to like the recruitment model. And as a result of doing this over many years, it has led to a lack of trust in gym pricing, a lack of transparency, and you never really know what you're going to get. And sometimes the plans can even change as well. So you're thinking, what's the value of this particular plan? In my opinion, I really don't think they've looked at customer segmentation at all well. They're really just driving traffic to get sales through the door for cash flow purposes. And I think it's no wonder that gym profitability is declining as a result.
To some extent, I think I'm going to disagree with this. I actually think we can learn a lot from gyms. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the way they do stuff. It's a subscription model before most things were. Like, I think it's probably almost impossible to go in and pay just for a workout in a gym. They'll have an onboarding system and all this sort of stuff, which, to be honest, there probably is some health and safety aspect to that, but I'm sure it's also just a barrier to actually letting you just work out once, or etc. Say if you're, you want to work out this week and then next week. So they get you on a subscription model, which is almost way before the whole SaaS revolution, software as a service. They also have a weird, they make it almost impossible, as Joanna mentioned, to compare pricing. Virtually no gym will have a price on the internet. You have to go in, meet someone, chat to someone, invest time and effort, shoe leather costs before you'll even get a price. And so your willingness to shop around would be very low. Clearly, you probably just go to the first one you get to. You'll decide it based on, I don't know what criteria. We'll get into the value drivers. But I think your ability to shop around is low, unless they really try to rip you off or charge way above market rate. But that aspect, your lack of ability to shop around or compare, is interesting. Also, the promos they offer tend to always be focused on like a fake joining fee. Joining fee waived for this week, or joining fee 50% for this week. And in reality, a joining fee for a gym is clearly preposterous. The joining fee often is so low, it's like maybe $15. It's really just, I think it really is just used as a method to let them advertise something, because they don't want to say reduce their subscription fees. The other thing, before I pass back to Joanna, that I think is very interesting about gyms is they try to price at a level whereby, I think some of the stats we've read, the majority of people don't visit the gym every month. They take out memberships maybe in January or dry July or whatever whatever the month is where you're on a new health kick, and people have all these great aspirations. We're going to work out every week, and it sounds great value. And then, of course, human nature, they stop and they don't go back. But then you've got to think, if there's a psychological aspect. Do you want to stop your gym membership because in theory that is quitting and giving up, or do you just want to keep that aspirational? Oh, I'll start again next week. And so basically they have that subscription model set at a level whereby really it's almost designed just to be under the radar, not to cause too much pressure on people, so that they let it keep ticking along. I don't know what the actual occupancy rate of a gym is based on their how many they sell, but clearly it's a bit like an airline. Clearly they're selling more tickets than there are seats on the plane. Clearly not everybody can do the bench press, etc. at the same time. So it's an interesting approach.
Yeah, I think that may be applicable for gyms that don't have many gyms within the firm. Like they don't have like a large transactional sort of capability. They may have, a couple of gyms dotted around. Then they're more likely to understand what their price bandwidth is, and to get that more optimal price bandwidth that you were talking about, and then promote within that range. However, with gyms with a number of different gyms and franchises within all geographically dispersed throughout the country, or that may be more tricky in terms of finding that optimal price bandwidth, and that's what we've learned from research. And to the point where it's very difficult to price shop because there's a lack of transparency. Is that a good thing? I mean, you just have to go on social media and see the reams and reams of complaints about that very topic. And looking at the data, what does that indicate? Yes, they probably attract customers using price point, which is, one could argue a great thing at the beginning. But then they lose profitability because the customer churn rate is actually quite significant. And although the customer doesn't price shop at the beginning of the journey, because yes, there's pretty much hard sold the offer, told to sit down like a naughty boy and girl and fill in their paperwork and pay an additional fee, membership fee on top. They do so, but then after a while, they do start to shop around because the value of that gym is not appealing anymore, or the fact that they didn't like the pressure of the price point and the whole shady aspect of the model. And you can see that in social media and in data, the churn rate is huge. And for those type of businesses where they're sort of selling premium type of services, but actually delivering the value in a very shady manner, there's some discrepancy and misalignment, and customers are onto it. On the point of subscription models, I think they're actually quite interesting from a psychological perspective in that, for gyms in particular. The fact that it comes out of customers' bank accounts every month could, and research shows, could be considered a good thing because it reminds people why they're going to the gym. And in fact, contrary to what you think, even though it's a lower amount of money coming out of the gym, people actually do notice it. And especially in times of inflation, where the first things to go are things like gym memberships, because people are under pressure, they're spending less, and they're thinking and evaluating consciously what they're going to spend. So things like newspapers, things like gym memberships, things like software as a service models, they're really going to be hit. Streaming services, video streaming, music, that's the sort of expenditure that people start to evaluate. And so then when they see it, so the pro of this, the psychological pro, is like, actually, if you actually are committed to your fitness and you see that going out of your bank account, you go, yeah, you're reminded to go. However, if you're sort of lackadaisical about your fitness and you see it going out of your bank account, you probably think, do you know what, I probably will give it a miss. And that's also reflected by the churn rate. Now, most people fit into that latter segment, the non-committed to gyms, except Aidan, of course, he's highly committed. Which makes you think, okay, are we charging enough for the value that we offer to the more premium segment, the people that do actually value the gym, people that do utilise the gym and get the money's worth, and are we undercharging the other segment? So what I think needs to be that price value profit equation still needs to be ironed out, especially for the bigger gym networks.
Yeah, like I think on that point, like I think there is probably more willingness to pay. That value discovery. What do people really value in a gym? That aspect, I don't think. I think I have a couple of comments to make before I forget them. The first one, I actually the payment, they nearly always take a direct debit is something I wanted to add. It's almost impossible or not available to pay on invoice in a gym. There's also an entire industry of payment facilitators who basically focus on gyms, because a lot of gyms fall below, at least in Australia, fall below the level of where the big banks, the big four banks, would allow direct debit facilities. So there's a whole echelon of companies who are in that space, just catered for the gym industry. So it's quite interesting that there's smaller businesses, sometimes mom and pop style, and they are direct debiting. So that is interesting. I also believe the favour of direct debit obviously saves a lot in bad debt collection and that aspect, and it improves their cash flow. But I also think if an invoice was arriving every month, people would be much more aware of what they're paying. When it goes direct debit, it sometimes goes under the radar. The thing about value discovery, what do people really value in a gym? Clearly, the tangibles, the number of machines, the weights. Does the gym smell? Simple stuff. Is it clean? Is it hygienic? Is it nice? Is it Then there's other stuff. Is it aspirational? Is it in a good location? Is it is it open? What hours of the day is it open? Is it 24/7? Can you go on public holidays? Does it open early in the morning? And then other stuff like the value add capability that gyms have. There's the luxury aspects of like swimming pools, and is it more of a health club? Can you play racquetball like in a movie set in New York, like Wall Street, where Gordon Gekko goes to play racquetball? I think even the first time I became aware of gyms was, I suppose, when we were a kid and you'd see Princess Diana in Britain, and she'd be going to this fancy health clubs in Chelsea or wherever it was, or Kensington, and I'm assuming those gyms are charging top notch, very high prices. I'm assuming they're capturing the value they offer, but are the regular gyms really even digging into that value discovery? You'd have to argue not, but again, because of the lack of clarity on gym pricing, it's hard to know. But what really drives people to, and these things, the drivers probably change, with working from home. There used to be big chains that would, publicise you can work out in our gym in your suburb, then you can work out in the gym at lunchtime in the CBD. When you're on holidays, if you go up to Queensland for sunshine in winter, you can work out in our gyms there too. Like, those drivers have probably decreased with working from home, I assume, and I wonder how that's played around into the different value drivers. One aspect I really like about gyms is, we talk about ecosystems and building ecosystems and barriers to entry and ability to upsell. Like in a gym, it's almost like a perfect little enclosed, air-conditioned, hopefully air-conditioned world. And they're always trying to upsell you with personal training, with extra classes, with, all different things added on, like from massage machines to body DEXA scans and everything else. So it's almost, once they've captured you, they are trying to move you along that sales funnel into the next thing, which is a great opportunity for these businesses. It's almost like being on a cruise ship to some extent. They have you where they want you to some extent, and they can sell you additional stuff.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking about there's actually a proliferation of new types of very niche gyms. Ones, like, for instance, I've seen, like, for those really like pumped to really into weight lifting, they're appealing to a very target market. Everyone that goes there are like into the same thing. They lift way above the average weights, deadlifting, and all that sort of stuff. And they choose those gyms very consciously. According to a lot of research out there, even those smaller niche players are using price and promotion to drive traffic into their gyms, because obviously they're reacting to the pressure of having to pay the bills, mass inflation, churn, because it still happens in those gyms too. So really, even though they understand the value, sometimes I feel that they're not confident in the value that they offer and often resort to price. And like I say this like it's a surprise, we see this in every business from B2B to B2C. Even when there's a clear and delineated value proposition and people are willing to pay and people do go, there's still that propensity to backtrack and default to price and promotion as a way to drive cash flow. Because cash flow to smaller businesses, smaller gyms with a niche audience means a lot. And it also means a lot to those sort of big, low budget, let's call it, sort of maybe more members that go to them, but low budget gyms who maybe we completely ignore even looking at value drivers, it seems, because they're using price and promotion to drive traffic. They've understood their churn rate to some degree and know that the replacement of that customer is cheap if they drive more promotions. However, is it really cheap? Could they be, nurturing customer lifetime value, their customer base? That would be more profitable, especially at a time like this, I would argue it would. And also, it would give them much better reviews and credibility online and a more sustainable business model. So are they looking for sustainability? Are they looking for, quick cash now and sell on the business? So there's, I feel it's probably the latter for a lot of the budget gyms. They're here today, gone tomorrow sort of thing. And then customers have to find another alternative because they're not truly committed to their gym memberships. And those that are, go to the more specialised premium gyms, niche gyms. And unfortunately, they are the people that we should really be thinking about because they're committed. They've been going for a number of years. And maybe business owners in that position should be really re-articulating, reminding their customers, not just through price, but through the marketing and the people that sell their plans and offers, through their sales, their marketing, their operations, renewing the gyms and all that sort of thing, the value in use and the value at risk concept. I suspect that even with the Lady Diana gym, they probably could be, they're charging a lot, but they probably are not charging the full amount, optimal price point, or exploring that. That's I'm hedging my bets there to think that based on what I've seen in gym pricing so far.
Yeah, because I imagine Princess Diana really shopped around for pricing, and she really went. She probably did invest quite a few, days in just checking out pricing, and could she save a few pounds here and there. One thing to say about gyms, the ability to charge and upsell, there is a large amount there. I know we've talked about the price consciousness of people, but clearly people care a lot about their fitness. Health is wealth is an old saying, and clearly people will pay big money, and you can just see that by, these gym, one-on-one coaching, and you'll see people paying, I don't know what it is, I think it's like $60, $70 plus an hour in Sydney to get someone to tell you to do your press-ups, and obviously I'm underplaying what they're really doing there. There's obviously some really good ones and some probably not as great, but if it works, people are willing to spend big money. There's been innovation in the sector in the last couple of years, which is probably trying to address some of the, the boredom, the monotony, that aspect that gyms have been criticised for, and we've seen, is it CrossFit, which has been a big phenomenon, and then this other one, the name has just slipped my mind. It's the one promoted by Mark Wahlberg, and it's huge. It's more like individual classes they run. The name's just slipped my mind, but the one I'm talking about. It's been on the stock market, and the share price has fallen recently. But those have been innovations that are sort of catered more to, I suppose, making it more of a competitive thing, making it more, a bit more camaraderie potentially in the gym, to drive people on, to counteract some of those criticisms people have had. But it's gyms are not going to go away. I think one of even during the COVID restrictions, which we're all trying to forget, one of the things that people really looked forward to when they ended was, for a certain percentage of people, it was getting back to the gym. Some people wanted to go out for dinner, some people wanted the movies, and a lot of people just wanted to pump some iron. So that is, gyms will never go away. Clearly it's like a spectrum. Clearly there's a huge opportunity for optimizing pricing by tailoring things and all that stuff. But I think it is a sector that we can learn a lot from, and even small businesses, etc. if you're running a business, one gym, like that is by definition a small business, but in reality you're facing a lot of the challenges that a big business has also, hundreds, potentially thousands of customers, collecting debts from them, tailoring your service to them, competing with other gyms in the local neighbourhood. So yeah, it's a microcosm of, I suppose, pricing challenges that even, mega corporations face.
Yeah, I suppose just a quick one. I was just thinking there that even between the plans that they offer, I find that the pricing is, and the relativities between those, like the difference in pricing between all the plans, good, better, best, is often very narrow. Also indicating that really they're thinking about the features and benefits of their plans as opposed to really the full value of each plan. So that's something that I potentially would address as a quick and very important fix, because when you see that, really, what does that show? It shows a lack of understanding, and not lack of understanding. It looks of the basic price and fundamental price model and structure and promotional structure, discount structures are just not there. It's just ad hoc. That's what that indicates. So, that's something potentially to fix. And I suppose the last thing that I probably would want to mention here is that there is a clear difference between people that are committed to going to the gym and people that see fitness as part of improving their life, their health, and it's like their medication, that they're committed to a healthier life. Now, I'm not saying here that we overcharge the ones that are committed, but there is a point here of, why of the people that are not committed here. And what I'm thinking is you can make that market more profitable. Aidan mentioned right at the beginning of this podcast that they have removed sort of that ad hoc usage of gyms. Why? It's a highly profitable market. If people want to go once or twice, charge them for it. They're probably willing to pay. And in that way, they're actually making money from a highly price-sensitive and non-committal audience because they want to pay at that point. So what I can see, there's really some really good pricing, quick wins as well as long-term wins that they'll get from building a sustainable and value-based and customer-focused pricing architecture, but slight changes to the model that won't disrupt the flow of business, and they can make money at the same time and almost feel like, here, we've even in a tough time, we're still making money and it's profitable. Okay, well, I think that's what I've got to say on that at the moment.
Okay, thanks. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.